Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be talking about longitudinal studies. What I have on my screen may seem a little overwhelming at first, but I'm going to walk you through it. What I have here is just a simple proposed design for a longitudinal study. If you look at my tasks, I've got 3 tasks for today, so this would be the first time that your participant takes your experiment, 1 repeat task that they'll do in both sessions, and 3 future tasks that'll be performed at a later date. I've split them into 2 blocks, today, which is the today tasks and the repeat, and future, which is the repeat and the future. Then what I've done is I've taken each of those blocks and assigned them to a session. Here's where we get into the part that it becomes a longitudinal study. If you assign multiple sessions to one group, that's when you start creating a longitudinal study. What I have so far is 3 different gender groups, female, male, and non-binary, and they each are going to do session 1. If I stop here, this is my normal study. They take it once and they're finished. When I add a session, this is when we get into a longitudinal study. As you can see, we have these little clocks on the side here. Clicking on this clock allows you to set when the participant should perform that session. We can start the session at any time, which is checked by default because that's our usual. Only at one specific date, which shows actual dates and times that you can put this in. And you can put at specific times, which would be periodically. You can also set different intervals from when the participant can start that session. For this example, I'm going to have session 1 start anytime. Then I'm going to show you session 2 starting at different times. So now we can base session 2 off of session 1. Let's say I want them to perform session 1 and exactly 3 days from session 1, they can start session 2. If we're doing depending on the former session, we can set an earliest starting time and a latest starting time. So let's say I want them to do it 3 to 5 days after they've completed session 1. I can do that here in this window. Specific times, we can get even more specific here with a first start and an interval. And again, only on one specific date, we can set the same date and 2 different times. So these are our options for longitudinal studies. I'm going to go ahead and add session 2 to each of these groups. And that would be a finished longitudinal study design. You can look at the settings for your longitudinal study in the Study Settings window as well, and make sure that everything is enabled here that you need to be enabled. We have all of the same experiment features as usual, our browsers and devices, and also our physical screen sizes that you can change. And you can set your usual balancing in groups, your startup screens, and your questions. Now we do have different settings down here for longitudinal or multi-session settings. And this is where you can check how you want to send email reminders and how you want to re-identify your subjects after the first session. This is super important because if a subject joins session 2 and you haven't set any way to re-identify, we want to make sure that their data is going to be matched up from session 1 to session 2. That way you're not getting any mixed data here. By default, we have yes and Labvanced generated token selected. What this means is that participation email reminders will be sent. If you click no, what you have to do here is ask for their email so that you can send these. Yes means that Labvanced will automatically send an email. Re-identifying subjects, we usually use the Labvanced generated token, which is that subject ID that gets automatically assigned when they join the subject. You can also use Prolific ID as long as you've properly integrated Prolific, and we have guides for that in the Downloads and Learn sections. Or you can use self-created subject codes, and those get created in the Publish and Record tab, which is explained in a different video. So for my study, I'm going to leave yes and Labvanced generated token. So these are the settings for longitudinal studies. I hope this video was helpful.